Part 1. May 15, 2019. I had just moved into my new house on the outskirts of Portland 3 days prior. An old, dilapidated Victorian wooden house bought from an elderly woman who lived alone. She passed away without any relatives, and the house was foreclosed by the bank and sold at auction. I managed to buy it at an incredibly cheap price, only a third of its market value. That night, I sat in the living room with a glass of whiskey in my hand, trying to relax after a long day of unpacking. The room was still a mess, with unopened cardboard boxes everywhere. The old television, the only thing the old woman left behind, was tilted precariously on an oak shelf. A 1985 Sony Chinitron, with a curved screen and a plastic casing yellowed with age. I didn't intend to keep it, but when the electrician came to check the house's electrical system, he said the TV was connected directly to the main circuit in a very strange way. Removing it could short-circuit the entire system. "Let me come back next week with the proper tools," he said, so I temporarily kept it. 11:29 p.m. I looked at the wall clock preparing for bed. My whiskey glass was empty and sleepiness began to creep in. I reached for the remote to turn off the lights, and then it happened. The television turned on with no one touching it. The remote lay still on the table, a meter away from me. The screen went from pitch black to bright white. The static hiss of white noise filled the silent room. I jumped, thinking it might be due to the old wiring, but before I could get up to turn it off, an image appeared. It was a news studio, but unlike any I had ever seen. The anchorman's desk was made of thin, dark wood, and the backdrop was a red brick wall with cracks running through it like veins. The studio's lighting was a dull yellow, as if filtered through a layer of grease. And the anchorman, a middle-aged man in a black suit and a dark red tie. His face was unremarkable, except for his skin, which was pale gray like ash. His black eyes had no whites. When he opened his mouth, I saw rows of perfectly even, sharp teeth. "Good evening," his voice boomed, deep and muffled, as if coming from underwater. "This is the 11:30 news. We begin with a breaking story from Portland, Oregon." My heart pounded. Portland, the city where I lived. Today, at 1428 Sycamore Street, Mrs. Margaret, 67, made a horrifying discovery while digging in her backyard. I swallowed hard. 1428 Sycamore, just 2 blocks from my house. The scene shifted, showing a familiar garden. I passed it every morning on my run. But in the image, the garden looked different. The grass was dark gray, the trees withered, and in the middle of the yard was a deep hole. 3 meters below the surface, Mrs. Margaret found a wooden box. The camera zoomed in on the box, its lid opening. Inside was me. No, not me now, but definitely me. My face, my body, but already the bluish-purple color of a corpse. My eyes were wide open, mouth agape as if screaming silently. There was a deep cut on my neck, the blood dried to a dark brown. The victim has been identified as Mark Harris, 34, who had just moved into the area 3 days ago. According to police, Mr. Harris had been dead for at least a week. No, it couldn't be. I was still sitting here. I was still breathing. I reached up to touch my neck. It was warm, my pulse steady. "The strange thing," the anchorman continued, his black eyes seeming to look directly at me through the screen, "is that neighbors still saw Mr. Harris entering and leaving as usual. He still greeted people, still went to work, still existed." A chill ran down my spine. I wanted to turn off the TV, to run out of the room, but my body felt frozen. "So the question is," the anchorman grinned, his sharp teeth glinting, "who is this Mark Harris watching this news?" The screen flickered off, and the room plunged into darkness, save for the frantic pounding of my heart in my chest. I sat motionless in the dark, cold sweat breaking out all over my body. The next morning, I walked past 1428 Sycamore. Mrs. Chen was watering her garden as usual. The garden was green and vibrant with no hole in sight. "Hello, Mark," she waved cheerfully. I forced a smile in return and hurried past. But when I looked back, I saw Mrs. Chen still standing there, still waving, still smiling, her smile unmoving like a wax statue. That evening, I unplugged the TV, but at exactly 11:30 p.m., it still turned on. The anchorman was still there in his black suit and dark red tie. "Good evening, this is the 11:30 news. Today we have a story from Portland, Oregon. A man named Mark Harris has just discovered a horrifying truth. I dared not listen further. I ran upstairs, locked my bedroom door, burrowed under the covers, and covered my ears. But the voice still echoed in my head, telling me that he had died long ago and what was living in his body. That was 5 years ago. I still live in this house, still go to work every day, still greet my neighbors, and every night at exactly 11:30 p.m. I still watch the news. Because now I understand those news reports aren't about the future, they're about the truth. A truth only the dead can see. And I, or whatever is impersonating me, continue to exist, continue to write these lines, continue to tell you. Are you sure you're still alive? Or are you, like me, just haven't tuned into the right channel yet? I know what I've just told you sounds insane, but let me tell you what happened in the days that followed. The second day, after the first incident, I decided to find out about the house's previous owner. At the local library, I found an old newspaper article from 1987. Lauren Morrison, the woman I bought the house from, did not live alone as the real estate agent claimed. She had a son, Thomas Morrison, who went missing in 1985. The strange thing was that in the photo accompanying the article, I saw the Sony Chinitrone TV in the corner of the room, in the same position it is now. I dug deeper. Thomas Morrison, 28, worked as a technician for a local TV station. One night in October 1985, he didn't come home. Police searched everywhere but found no clues. The case gradually faded into obscurity, but one detail sent shivers down my spine. In Lauren's diary, donated to the library after her death, there was an entry that read, "Thomas still comes home every night. I see my son on TV at 11:30 p.m. He says he's fine, just in a different place." That evening, I prepared thoroughly. A camera, a voice recorder, even a mirror. I'd read somewhere that ghosts don't have reflections. 11:25 p.m., I sat down in front of the TV. This time, I would record everything. 11:30 p.m. The TV turned on, but it wasn't the familiar news studio that appeared. It was a different room. The room I was sitting in, but in the image, the room looked older, darker. And the person sitting on the chair wasn't me, it was Thomas Morrison. He sat in the exact spot I was sitting, staring intently at the TV. His eyes were wide open but lifeless, as if looking into empty space. On his neck, I saw finger-shaped bruises. "Thomas," a voice echoed from the TV, within the TV, a bizarre loop. "Do you want to come home?" Thomas in the image nodded slowly. His lips moved, but no sound came out. "Then let someone else in," the voice continued. "They will keep your house warm for you. They will live the life you couldn't continue." Suddenly, Thomas turned his head and looked directly at me, not at the camera in the image, but through the screen, straight at me sitting in the living room. "Thank you," he whispered. "Thank you for coming." The screen went black but didn't turn off. In that deep blackness, I saw my own reflection. But the person in the reflection wasn't wearing a t-shirt and jeans like me. That person was wearing a black suit and a dark red tie. I startled and looked down at my body, still a t-shirt and jeans. But when I looked back at the screen, the reflection was still wearing a suit and smiling. "No," I whispered, "that's not me." The person in the TV, the me in the TV, smiled wider. "Of course it's you, Mark," you agreed. "When you signed the house contract, when you sat in this chair, when you drank your first whiskey in this house." I remembered the whiskey that first night, a strange bitterness I attributed to a new brand. "Everyone here has a role," the me in the TV continued. "Thomas has completed his role. Now it's your turn. And one day, someone else will sit in the chair you're sitting in, watching you on this screen." "I'm still alive," I screamed. "Alive?" the person in the TV sneered. "You call this living? Every day the same routine to work, the same empty conversations, the same whiskey every night. You are a loop, Mark, a broadcast on repeat, except you haven't realized whether you're asterisk in the TV or asterisk outside the TV." I sprang up, intending to run out of the room, but my feet felt glued to the floor. I looked down, there was nothing there, but I couldn't lift my feet. "Don't try," a voice echoed, this time not from the TV, but from all around the room. "The more you resist, the faster you'll realize the truth, that you've never left this room since that first night." "No," I yelled. "I go to work every day, I meet people." "Oh, Mark," the voice became soft, almost sympathetic. What do you think when no one at your company remembers what you do? When they don't remember when you started working? When all your conversations end before they truly begin? I tried to recall my job. What was it? Where did I work? What were my colleagues' names? It was all a hazy blur. The TV lit up again. This time, it showed an image of the outside of the house. The camera angle was from the street, looking into the living room window. Through the window, I saw a figure sitting motionless in the chair, but I was standing. The camera zoomed closer. The person in the chair had my face, but their skin was ash gray, eyes closed. On their neck was the deep cut I had seen in the first news report. "That's the real you," the voice whispered. "And you, the one who thinks he's standing here, is just the last memory. What's left, what refused to leave?" I turned to look at the empty chair, but there was a deep impression on the cushion, as if someone had been sitting there for a very, very long time. "Every night at 11:30 p.m., the voice continued, "is when the boundaries are thinnest, when people like you can see the truth. But tomorrow morning, you'll forget everything, you'll believe you're still alive, you'll go to work, greet your neighbors, drink whiskey until the next 11:30 p.m. "No," I whispered, feeling my memories blurring like fog. "That's why you're writing these lines," the voice said gently, "to remember to warn. But then you'll forget you wrote them too, like Thomas, like all the others before him." The screen went black, and the room plunged into darkness. I felt myself dissolving, fading away. The next morning, I woke up in bed with a terrible headache, trying to recall last night, but it was just a blank. Maybe I drank too much. I went to work as usual, greeted Mrs. Chen as I passed her house. That evening, I sat down in my familiar chair with a glass of whiskey in my hand. It wasn't until I saw the notebook on the table that I remembered. It was my handwriting, but I didn't remember writing it. And now I'm writing more to remember to warn, because 11:29 p.m. is almost here, and the TV has started to flicker faintly. I don't know how much time I have before I forget everything, but if you're reading these lines, remember, never watch TV at 11:30 p.m. Never sit in that red velvet chair. Never drink your first whiskey in a strange house. And most importantly, never believe you're still alive just because you think so. Part 2. My name is Madison Clark. No, I'm sorry, that's not my real name. But after everything that's happened, I can't use my real name anymore. They might be looking for me, or something is looking for me. This story happened in the winter of 2021 when I was a final-year journalism student at UCLA. I rented a small studio apartment in Westwood with my best friend, Jennifer. We split the rent to save money. I slept on the bed, and Jen slept on the sofa bed in the living room. It all started when I bought an old TV from a garage sale. The owner, an old Mexican man, practically pushed it on me for $20. "Are you sure you want it, Mija?" he asked with a thick accent. His eyes held a strange worry. "Of course," I laughed. "Such a good price and it still works." The old man shook his head, muttering something in Spanish I didn't understand, but I caught one word. "Maldito, cursed. I don't believe in superstitions. I'm a materialist. I believe in facts and evidence. That's why I chose to study journalism, to seek and convey the truth." The TV was placed in the living room, facing Jen's sofa bed. It was a 1990 Zenith, a 20-inch behemoth, heavy as a rock, but the image was surprisingly sharp. The first week passed normally. We watched Netflix, HBO, news channels. Jen was particularly addicted to CNN. She wanted to be a political correspondent. On Saturday night, Jen went to bed early because she had a test the next morning. I stayed up late writing an essay for my investigative journalism class. The clock read 11:28 p.m. I was typing on my laptop when I heard the TV turn on. I turned to look. The screen was lit, even though the remote was on the table beside me. Jen was still fast asleep on the sofa, not moving at all. Strange, I thought. Maybe the timer is faulty. I reached for the remote to turn it off, but the buttons didn't work. The TV stayed on, the screen shifting from static to a clear image. A new studio appeared, but unlike any I had ever seen. The wall behind was covered with small screens, each displaying a different image, screaming faces, waving hands, eyes wide with terror. The anchor was a young woman, perhaps only a few years older than me. She wore a white blazer, her blonde hair neatly tied back. She looked perfectly normal, except her eyes didn't blink. Not once. "Welcome to Channel 0, she said. Her voice was clear but completely devoid of emotion. The 11:30 p.m. news. We report on what's to come. To come, I tilted my head, curious. Perhaps this was some kind of satirical show. First story from Los Angeles, she continued. Tomorrow, December 15th, at apartment 304, Westwood District, a murder will occur. My heart pounded. 304 was my apartment number. The scene shifted, the camera recorded from a ceiling angle, showing the very apartment I was sitting in. I saw myself in the image, typing on my laptop, and Jen sleeping on the sofa. But in the image, the clock read 2:17 a.m. The apartment door slowly opened, and a dark shadow glided in, moving silently. It approached Jen. I wanted to scream a warning, but I remembered this was just an image on TV. The shadow bent down close to Jen's face. It had no face, just a mass of shadow in human form. From its faceless void, something flowed out, dark and greenish like oil, dripping into Jen's slightly open mouth. Jen began to convulse. Her entire body trembled violently, her mouth open but unable to scream. The black liquid continued to flow, more and more. "No," I screamed, startling Jen awake. "What is it?" she asked, half asleep. I pointed at the TV, but the screen had gone black. The room was dark. The TV, it turned on by itself, I stammered. There was a strange program. Jen frowned, looking at the clock. "Madison, it's 11:32 p.m. Were you dreaming?" I looked at my laptop. 11:32 p.m., but I swore it was just 11:28 p.m. a moment ago. "Go to sleep," Jen said, turning back over. "I have a test tomorrow." I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about the image I had just seen. 2:17 a.m. I decided to stay awake and keep watch. 1:00 a.m., 1:30 a.m., 2:00 a.m. My eyelids felt heavy. 2:15 a.m. I startled awake. 2:25 a.m. Damn it, I fell asleep. The room was quiet, only Jen's steady breathing. Maybe it was just a nightmare. I sighed in relief, preparing to go back to sleep. And then I heard the door creak open. I froze. From the crack in the door, a darkness thicker than night seeped in. It moved slowly, bit by bit, like black honey flowing across the floor. It was it. The thing I saw on TV. I wanted to scream, to run, but my body felt paralyzed. I could only lie there, eyes wide open, watching the shadow advance towards Jen. It stopped beside the sofa, rising to almost 2 meters tall, with no discernible features beyond a vague human shape. It bent down. "Jennifer!" I screamed with all my might. Jen sprang up, and the shadow dissipated like smoke. "What the hell was that?" Jen cried out in fright. There was something in the room," I said, trembling as I flipped on the light. The room was brightly lit. There was nothing there. The door was still locked tight. "Madison, you scared me to death," Jen grumbled. "It was just a nightmare." But I knew it wasn't a nightmare, and I knew it would come back. The next morning, I told Jen everything. She didn't believe me, but agreed to let me sleep on the sofa with her that night. "Just to put your mind at ease," she said. All day, I couldn't concentrate, still thinking about the strange news. Channel 0 reported on what's to come. What if it was real? What if I could see the future? That evening, we sat waiting in front of the TV. Jen was still skeptical but curious. 11:29 p.m. "If it turns on, don't turn it off," I instructed. "We have to watch the whole thing." 11:30 p.m. The TV turned on, showing the same studio, the same anchor with unblinking eyes. But this time, she smiled. "Welcome back to Channel 0, she said. "Today we have a new viewer joining us." "Hello, Jennifer." Jen's mouth dropped open. It knows my name. "Today's news," the anchor continued. "Jennifer Martinez, 22, will discover a truth about her roommate." "What truth?" Jen whispered. The screen changed scene, an old image, seemingly from the 90s. A little girl about 5 or 6 years old stood in a living room, grinning widely. Behind her was a Zenith TV, the very TV we were watching. The little girl had the same hair color, the same habit of twirling her hair when stressed as me. That's me, I thought. No, it can't be. In 1990, I wasn't born. I was born in 1999. "Madison Clark," the anchor's voice resonated. "Born May 15, 1985, died December 15, 1991. Cause of death, suffocation in her sleep." "No," I shook my head frantically. I'm 22, I was born in 1999. The image continued. A funeral, a tiny coffin, a woman sobbing over the coffin, looking eerily like my mother, but younger, much younger. Little Madison loved watching TV, the anchor narrated. Especially at night. One night she woke up at 11:30 p.m. and turned on the TV. Channel Zero welcomed her. Memories flooded back, not memories, fragments of something deeper, older. Channel Zero showed the little girl her future, the voice continued. A future where she grew up, went to college, had friends, a future she would never have, and she chose. Chose what? Jen asked, her voice trembling. Chose to stay inside the TV, chose to live in the stories Channel Zero told, and 30 years later, when a young woman bought this TV. I looked at Jen, horrified, realizing the truth. I'm not real. That's not all, the anchor smiled coldly. Jennifer, have you ever wondered why you always feel tired? Why your memory sometimes has blanks? Why you wake up feeling like someone else has been in your body? Jen recoiled, her face pale. No. Madison needs energy to exist, and every night when you sleep soundly, she borrows a little. Just a little. Your breath, your heartbeat, your memories. I looked down at my hands. In the light from the TV, my skin seemed translucent. I could see bones, even the floor through them. I'm sorry, I whispered to Jen. I didn't know, I thought I was real. Jen looked at me, tears welling up. You're real to me, whatever you are. The TV turned off, and the room plunged into darkness. The next morning, Jen woke up remembering nothing. She looked at me like a stranger. Excuse me, who are you? Why are you in my room? I understood then. My memories, all that we had shared, had been taken by Channel Zero. That was the price for me to exist for another day. I packed my belongings and left. The TV, I left it for Jen, or perhaps for the next person who would need it. Now I wander from city to city, existing in the spaces between stories. Sometimes I meet others like me, fragments from Channel Zero, people who chose a reality that didn't belong to them. We recognize each other through our eyes, the eyes of those who watch too much TV at 11:30 p.m. If you're reading this story, be careful. Not all channels on TV are for the living, and not everyone you meet is from this reality. But the most terrifying thing is, sometimes I wonder if you, the one reading these lines, are sure you're not a story from Channel Zero. Check if you clearly remember what year you were born, or if that's just a memory that was implanted. Are you sure? Part 3. I'm Joshua Miller, 38, a night security guard at an old office building in downtown Seattle. The job is boring, sitting in the guard room, monitoring cameras, patrolling every hour, but the pay is stable, and I have time for my hobbies, collecting vintage electronics. Last month, at an estate auction, I bought a rare Sinclair Microvision Mini TV from 1977. Its screen was only 2 inches, black and white, battery-powered. The seller said it didn't work, but I love the challenge of repairing old things. I brought it to work to tinker with during my breaks. After a few nights of replacing components and cleaning circuits, it came back to life. The tiny screen lit up with familiar static dots. On the 5th night after fixing it, I was sitting in the guard room, the mini TV next to the camera monitor. 11:25 p.m., almost time for my patrol. The mini TV suddenly flickered brightly. The static disappeared, replaced by an image that was strangely clear for a 40-year-old device. On the 2-inch screen, I saw a miniature news studio. Even though the image was tiny, I could still make out the details, a modern studio with a backdrop of a city skyline at night. But that skyline didn't look like Seattle or any city I knew. The buildings had bizarre architecture, tilted like an Escher painting. The anchorman appeared. A young man, perhaps in his 20s, wearing a white shirt and a black tie. He smiled, looking directly into the camera. "Hello, Joshua," his voice echoed from the tiny speaker, strangely clear. "I am Nathan Cross, reporter for Channel Night. Welcome to the news broadcast just for one person." My heart pounded. How did he know my name? "Don't panic," Nathan continued, as if reading my thoughts. "We've been watching you for a long time. A lonely man working in the shadows with only cameras for company. You deserve to see some special news." I wanted to turn off the TV, but I couldn't tear my eyes away. There was something about that tiny screen that drew me in. "First story," Nathan said, his voice turning solemn. The 14th floor of the building you're guarding. Do you know why it's always locked? I knew. The 14th floor had been sealed off 5 years ago after a fire. The management company said they were waiting for repairs, but never did them. Not because of a fire, Nathan said, but because of what happened afterward. The screen switched to a security camera image, an angle from the 14th floor hallway. I immediately recognized it as a feed from camera 14A, but that camera had been broken for a long time. In the image, the hallway wasn't as desolate as I imagined. The lights were still on, the floor was clean, and people were moving around. Dozens of people in office attire walked back and forth like a normal workday. But something was wrong. They moved too mechanically, like robots, and all had the same blank, lifeless expression. They still come to work every day, Nathan explained. Even though they died in the fire, 47 people trapped when the elevator broke down and the emergency stairs were locked. They don't know they're dead, still come to the office, still sit at their desks, still type on keyboards without computers. I swallowed hard. That's why the 14th floor is always locked. No way, I muttered. I don't believe it. Nathan smiled. Then go up and see. The key is in the third drawer to the left of your desk, always there, waiting for someone brave enough. I opened the drawer. Indeed, there was an old bunch of keys, labeled 14th floor. How had I never seen it? But that's not the most important news, Nathan continued. Second story, do you remember why you work the night shift, Joshua? Of course I remember, I said. I asked to switch shifts after. Strangely, I couldn't remember the reason. 5 years ago, Nathan said, you worked the day shift. You were on the 14th floor when the fire happened. No, I exclaimed. I wasn't there, but my memory was blank. I couldn't remember where I was that day. The screen switched again. A list of fire victims flashed. I scanned it, my heart pounding like a drum. And at position 23, Joshua Miller, 33, security guard. No way, I whispered. I'm still alive, I'm still sitting here. That's right, Nathan nodded. You're still sitting there, night after night, guarding an empty building. No one works here at night, Joshua. No one needs a night security guard for a ghost building. I looked around the guard room with new eyes. Dust covered every surface except where I was sitting. The wall calendar was stuck on March 2019, the month the fire happened. But the third story is the most important, Nathan said, his voice becoming a whisper. You're not the only one who can watch Channel Night. All 47 people on the 14th floor watch it, each with a mini TV in their ghostly office, and they're waiting. Waiting for what? Waiting for the 48th person, the last one to complete the number. The one who still pretends to be alive, still clinging to this world. I jumped to my feet, my chair toppling backward. I'm not going up there. Nathan laughed, a cold, eerie sound. You've gone up there every night, Joshua. Every time you patrol, you stop in front of the 14th floor door, standing there for hours, listening. You hear them, don't you? The typing, the ringing phones, the faint laughter. I remembered. Yes, every night on patrol, I always stopped at the 14th floor. Always heard faint sounds from inside. Always wanted to open the door. But you were afraid, Nathan said. Afraid to face the truth that you belong there, that the empty chair at position 48 is waiting for you. The clock struck 11:30 p.m. All the camera monitors in the guard room simultaneously switched to the 14th floor. 47 different angles from 47 ghostly cameras. In each angle, a person sat motionless at their desk, eyes glued to mini TVs, and they all turned their heads to look directly at the cameras. 47 faces with the same blank expression. 47 pairs of lips muttering the same sentence. Come up, Joshua, we're waiting. I ran out of the guard room, rushing towards the emergency stairs, but my feet automatically turned into the elevator. My hand pressed the 14th floor button, even as I tried to resist. The elevator slowly ascended. Floor 5, floor 8, floor 11. No, I whispered. I didn't want to remember, but memories flooded back. That day, the fire alarm rang. I led everyone to the emergency stairs. The door was locked. Back to the elevator, it had stopped working. Smoke began to pour in. People panicked. I tried to break down the emergency door, but the elevator door opened. The 14th floor hallway was brightly lit, clean, just like in the camera feed, and they were there. 47 people stood in a line, forming a path leading to the end of the hallway. "Welcome home, Joshua," they said in unison. I stepped out of the elevator. My feet moved against my will. The deeper I went into the hallway, the clearer the memories became. Desperate faces, cries for help, the suffocating smell of smoke, and the final moment when the room at the end of the hallway. The door was open. Inside, 47 desks lined up. 47 people already sat in their positions, eyes glued to mini TVs. Only one desk was empty. On the desk, a mini TV was waiting. I sat down, no longer able to resist. The TV lit up. Nathan Cross smiled from the 2-inch screen. "Final news of the night," he said. "Joshua Miller, 38, has finally accepted the truth, that he died 5 years ago along with 47 colleagues. That for the past 5 years, he was just a ghost guarding a ghost building." I looked down at my hands, they were translucent. I could see the keyboard through them. "But don't be sad," Nathan comforted. "Now you are in the right place with your new family. 48 people forever working in this building, forever watching Channel Night at 11:30 p.m. I turned my head to look around. 47 faces turned to me, smiling, no longer lifeless. They were happy that their family was finally complete. "Welcome," they said. "Now the real work begins." "What work?" I asked, my own voice sounding alien. The person sitting next to me, a middle-aged woman I remembered named Linda, pointed at the camera monitor on the wall. "Guarding," she said. "Not guarding the building, but guarding the door." "What door?" "The door between two worlds. The 14th floor isn't just where we died, it's the boundary. And we're here to make sure no one crosses." I looked at the mini TV. Nathan Cross was still there, but the backdrop had changed. No longer the bizarre city, but the 14th floor hallway with 48 silent figures sitting. "Every night at 11:30 p.m., Nathan said, "the boundary is thinnest. Things from the other side try to cross, and you, 48 trapped souls, are the last barrier." "But why us?" I asked. "Because you died in fear," Nathan replied. "Extreme fear creates the strongest connection. You can't go to the other side, and you can't leave this side. Forever trapped, forever guarding." The clock struck 11:31 p.m. The camera monitors began to flicker. In those flickering moments, I saw them, the things waiting on the other side of the boundary. Indescribable shapes, writhing shadows, too many eyes. "Get ready," Linda said. "Tonight will be long." I understood. This was my job now. Not night security for the living, but a sentinel for the boundary between life and death. And somewhere out there in the world of the living, perhaps someone still sees me. A blurry figure on patrol every night. A ghost guard in a ghost building. If you see me, don't say hello, don't disturb me. I'm busy guarding. And if your TV turns on at 11:30 p.m., showing Channel Night, turn it off immediately, unless you're ready to remember when you died. Part 4. My name is Rachel Foster, 41. Last September, my husband Michael and I bought an old house in suburban Detroit for an unbelievably low price. The agent was blunt. "This house has been on the market for 3 years. No one wants it. The previous owner disappeared mysteriously." We didn't care. After 15 years of saving, we could finally buy a house. Even if it needed a lot of repairs, it was still asterisk or asterisk. The house was built in 1952, a single-story ranch with a spacious basement. When we moved in, we discovered the basement had been converted into a kind of safe room. Thick concrete walls, a steel door, even an independent ventilation system. "Maybe the previous owner was afraid of nuclear war," Michael joked. "Cold War era, you know." In a corner of the basement, we found an old, still working RCA Victor TV from 1960. It had a unique round screen and a gleaming, polished wooden case. Michael wanted to throw it out, but I liked antiques, so I kept it. Everything was normal until one night in November. Michael was away on a business trip, and I was home alone. Around 11 p.m., I went down to the basement to get something from the freezer. The old TV suddenly lit up. I jumped. The TV wasn't plugged in. I had checked it when we cleaned up. But the round screen glowed, displaying a black and white image. A news studio appeared, but unlike any studio I had ever seen. The walls were covered with strange maps and charts, oil lamps flickered, and cigarette smoke filled the air. The style was distinctly 1960s. The anchor was a man in his 50s, with slicked-back gray hair, wearing a gray suit, smoking an unfiltered cigarette. When he looked at the camera, I saw something wrong with his eyes. Not their color or shape, but the gaze, as if looking from a very, very distant place. "This is emergency broadcast number 1847, he said, his voice deep and raspy. "November 15, 2023, or, by our calendar, November 15, 1962. 1962, I frowned. What kind of show is this? "For those watching from the basement," he continued, exhaling smoke, "especially Mrs. Rachel Foster in Detroit, we have important news." My heart seemed to stop. "How?" "You are in Harold Whitman's basement," the anchor said. "The man who spent 40 years of his life preparing for this day, the day when two worlds overlap." The screen switched to another image, a thin, bespectacled man standing in the very basement I was in, but it looked different, filled with bookshelves, maps, complex radio equipment. "Harold Whitman," the anchor's voice resonated. "Amateur physicist who believed that time is not a straight line but a spiral, and at some points the spirals touch." The image showed Harold furiously writing in a diary. I could see complex mathematical formulas, strange diagrams. In 1962, Harold discovered a horrifying truth. His world, our world, had been destroyed. Nuclear war broke out on October 27, 1962. Humanity was annihilated with only a few hundred survivors in bunkers. But Harold found a way to send a signal back in time, to warn the past, to change the course of history. I shook my head. This is absurd, but why couldn't I tear my eyes from the screen? "And he succeeded," the anchor continued. "The message was sent. The Cuban Missile Crisis was resolved peacefully. Your world, the world of 2023, exists." But he paused, lighting a new cigarette. "But our world is still here, in a dead timeline, a ghost reality." And Harold realized the two worlds were slowly blending. The screen changed again. This time, it was an image from a security camera. It seemed recent. I saw myself moving around the house, but sometimes blurry figures appeared in the frame. People in 1960s attire glided past like ghosts. "This basement is the anchor point," the anchor explained, "where Harold conducted his experiments, where the two worlds are thinnest. And every night at 11:30 p.m., when he turned on the TV to receive signals from the future, the boundary became even thinner. That's why the owners of these houses always disappear," he said. "They can't stand the pressure of two overlapping realities. Eventually, they slip to this side, our dead world." I trembled, backing away. "No, I have to get out of here." But when I turned, the basement door was no longer a modern steel door, but an old wooden one with a heavy bolt. "Don't be afraid, Rachel," the anchor said. "You're still safe, for now, but there's something you need to know." I turned back to the TV. The anchor had stood up, moving closer to the camera. His face, magnified, filled the round screen. "Michael is not on a business trip," he whispered. "He started seeing us 3 weeks ago. Unable to bear it, he ran away, leaving you alone with the haunted house." "No," I screamed. "Michael would never." "Check your phone," the voice echoed. "No messages from him, are there? No calls, because he knew if he stayed in this house one more day, he would slip to this side forever." I trembling took out my phone. Indeed, Michael hadn't contacted me since he left for his business trip. I called him, voicemail, texted, no reply. "But why am I still here?" I whispered. "Because you are the key," the anchor said. "Harold left notes. A person with the right sensitivity is needed to complete the process. Someone who can exist in both worlds at once. Someone who can." A noise behind me. I turned. The basement had changed. Half was still a modern basement with a freezer and shelves, the other half was a 1960s bunker, oil lamps, canned goods, gas masks. And at the boundary between the two halves, a man stood there. Harold Whitman, older than in the image, with stark white hair and deep-set eyes. He wore a tattered lab coat, holding a diary. "Finally," he whispered, "finally someone suitable." "You're not real," I shook my head frantically. "You're dead." "In the dead world, yes," Harold nodded. "But you are between two worlds. You can see both, hear both. And most importantly," he stepped closer. With each step, the basement transformed a little more. Modern gave way to old, light gave way to dark. "You can choose." "Choose what?" Choose which world will be real, which world will win. I looked around the constantly changing basement. One moment, gleaming stainless steel freezers, the next, barrels of frozen water. Electric light bulbs flickered into oil lamps, then back to bulbs. I choose my world, I screamed. The world with Michael, with my life. Harold smiled sadly. That world is dying, Rachel, not because of nuclear bombs, but because of apathy, because of forgetting. While our world, though dead, still remembers, still watches, still stands ready. The TV again drew my attention. The news anchor was still there, but the background had changed. No longer a studio, but the landscape of a desolate city, a red sky, radioactive snow falling. Final news of the night, he said. Rachel Foster will make a choice. But no matter the choice, the truth remains, two worlds cannot coexist. One must give way to the other. And if you don't choose, Harold said from behind me, both will collapse. The clock struck 11:45 p.m. The basement shook, space began to tear apart. Through the rips, I saw both worlds at once, the vibrant world of 2023 and the dead world of 1962. Choose, Harold yelled, before it's too late. I closed my eyes, thinking of Michael, of the life we had built, of the future we dreamed of. But I also thought of Harold, of the people in the dead world. They had sacrificed themselves to warn, to save us, and we didn't even know they existed. I opened my eyes, making a decision. I choose both. Harold and the news anchor both looked at me in astonishment. I won't let anyone disappear, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. There has to be a way, there has to be. And then I remembered the TV. It didn't just receive signals, Harold used it to send messages, if I could. I rushed to the TV, ignoring Harold's calls, placed my hands on the warm, round screen and focused, thinking of a bridge of connection, of not choosing one side but creating a third path. The screen glowed intensely. Energy surged through me, hot and cold, pain and bliss at once. I felt myself tearing apart and healing simultaneously. When I opened my eyes, the basement had changed. Not half this, half that, but a harmonious blend. Modern freezers stood next to old canned goods shelves, LED lights illuminated alongside oil lamps. Two worlds coexisted. Harold looked around in astonishment. What have you done? Created space for both, I gasped. Not replacement, but addition. The TV was still on. The news anchor smiled. For the first time, I saw him smile genuinely. Special report, he said. Rachel Foster has found a solution we hadn't considered. The two worlds will not completely merge, but there will be points of intersection. Places like this basement, where past and present meet, where the living can learn from the dead, and where the dead can find new meaning. Harold added, looking at me with gratitude, Michael, Rachel, are you okay? I just woke up from the most terrible nightmare, dreaming you were trapped in a strange world. Where are you? In a hotel in Chicago, but I'm driving back, I asked. Something told me I had to come back right away. Don't go down into the basement, honey. I have a bad feeling. It's too late for that warning, I smiled weakly. But I'm okay. Everything will be okay. It's just, when you get back, I have a lot to tell you. I hung up, turned back to look at Harold. He was still standing there, but more translucent, as if about to fade away. Thank you, he said. Thank you for not abandoning us. Where will you go? Nowhere, he said. We'll be here, in the TV, in the radio, in the silent moments between two heartbeats. Ready to warn, ready to remind, so your world never forgets. He disappeared. The TV turned off. The basement returned to normal. Almost. There were still traces. An old book on a new shelf, a can of preserved food in the refrigerator, small fragments of another world. I climbed the stairs and closed the basement door, but I didn't lock it. Never again. Because now I know that at 11:30 p.m. every night, if I need to, I can go down there, turn on the old TV, and listen to the news from a world that died but never forgot. News that reminds us to cherish this world, because it might not exist without those who sacrificed themselves to warn us from across time. Part 5. I'm Brittany Watson, 35, a single mother to an 8-year-old boy, Tommy. We had just moved into a 2-bedroom apartment in Philadelphia after a painful divorce. Money was tight, but I tried to create a new home for my son. Among the old items left by the previous tenant was a small Magnavox TV from 1978. Tommy loved it. It looked like a toy with its orange plastic casing and V-shaped antenna. I put it in his room, thinking that even if it didn't work, he could play pretend with it. One evening this February, I was working late on a freelance project. Tommy had been asleep since 9:00 p.m. Around 11:25 p.m., I heard him talking in his room. Strange, Tommy didn't usually talk in his sleep. I got up and tiptoed to his bedroom door. Through the slightly ajar door, I saw a pale blue light emanating. Tommy was sitting up in bed, his eyes glued to the illuminated TV. "Honey, why are you awake?" I walked in. Tommy didn't turn around. "Mommy, I'm watching TV with my family." "What family?" I frowned, approaching. On the screen, a strange show was playing. A family of 4 sat around a dining table: mom, dad, son, and daughter. The filming style was like a 70s sitcom, oversaturated colors, forced smiles. But what sent chills down my spine was that the boy on TV looked exactly like Tommy. The same curly brown hair, the same dimple when he smiled, even the same dinosaur print pajamas. "That's me on TV," Tommy pointed at the screen. "And those are my mom and dad, my real family." "Tommy, that's just a TV show." I tried to keep my voice calm. "I'm your real mom." Tommy turned to look at me, his eyes strangely cold. "No, you're just keeping me temporarily. My real family is in there." I reached out to turn off the TV but couldn't find the power button. The power cord. I realized the TV wasn't plugged in. "Tommy, go to sleep, honey." I tried to pull him away from the TV. "No," Tommy screamed. His voice wasn't his own, it was deeper, older. "I have to watch the whole thing. They're going to tell me how to get home." The clock struck 11:30 p.m. The show shifted from a warm family dinner to a news studio, but still maintained the bizarre sitcom style. The news anchor smiled widely, and canned laughter erupted after every sentence. "Welcome to Family News," the anchor, a woman with a giant bouffant hairstyle, said cheerfully. "Today, we have wonderful news from the Henderson family." The camera cut back to the family on TV. The mother waved. "We've missed our youngest son so much. Tommy's been lost for 8 years, but we've finally found him." 8 years? Tommy was only 8. "Mommy," the Tommy on TV said, his voice sickly sweet. "I missed you so much. I was stuck outside with a strange woman, but I'll be home soon." "That's right, darling," the dad on TV chuckled. "Just follow the instructions, remember, like we practiced." Tommy beside me nodded frantically. I remember." "Tommy," I grabbed his shoulders. "Look at me, I'm Brittany, your birth mother. You were born at Jefferson Hospital. I still have your wristband." "Be quiet," Tommy yelled, his voice unnatural, echoing. "You're not my mom. My real mom is in the TV." The TV screen glowed brightly. The Henderson family began to sing a cheerful song. Come home, where you belong is here. Just step through the screen and everything will be wonderful." Tommy started singing along. His voice perfectly blended with the singing on TV. And as he sang, I saw something horrifying. His hand was fading. "Tommy, no." I hugged him tight, but it was like hugging smoke. "Don't listen to them." "Step through, darling," the mother on TV waved. "We've been waiting for you for so long. Family has to be together." "But why?" I screamed in despair. "Why do you want to take my son?" The mother on TV looked directly at me, her sitcom smile vanishing, replaced by a cold expression. "Because you took my son." "What? No, Tommy is my son." "Brittany Watson," the news anchor cheerfully read from a cue card. 30 years old, gave birth to a child but the baby was stillborn, only lived for 3 hours. She couldn't accept it. No, she went to the hospital every day." The voice continued with a cheerful background tune, looking at the newborns. "And one day she saw Tommy Henderson, born on the same day as her child, the same weight, the same hair color. Memories flooded back, but not memories I wanted to recall." "She took him," the Henderson mother said, tears streaming down her face but still maintaining her sitcom smile. "When the nurse turned her back, she picked up my baby and ran. And for the past 8 years, she's pretended he was hers." "No," I shook my head frantically. "Tommy is my son. I have his birth certificate, ultrasound photos." "Fake," the Henderson dad sneered. "You're good at faking documents, aren't you? so good that you even believed it yourself. Tommy, or what used to be Tommy, looked at me with alien eyes. You're not my mom, I know it. I always felt something was wrong. Now I understand. Tommy, no matter what, I love you, I sobbed. For 8 years, I've cared for you. I stayed up nights when you were sick. I taught you to walk, taught you to talk. You stole those moments, the real Tommy, the baby in the TV, said. Those moments that rightfully belonged to us. Canned laughter erupted wildly. Tommy beside me stood up, his body almost half translucent. I have to go home now. Don't, I tried to hold him back, but my hands passed through him. They're not real people. What are they? The Henderson mother asked. Just images on TV, like the memories you have of your son, like the life you built on pain and lies. Tommy walked towards the TV. With each step, he became more faded. Tommy, I cried out, whatever I did, I love you. I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. Tommy stopped in front of the screen, turned back to look at me one last time. I know you love me, he said, his voice softening, but I don't belong to you. I have a real family. They've been looking for me for 8 years. How, I whispered, how did they find you? Through the TV, Tommy smiled sadly. Every night at 11:30 p.m., they broadcast a search signal for me, and tonight I heard it. He touched the screen, his hand passed through it like water. Goodbye, Brittany, he said. Thank you for taking care of me, but now I have to go home for real. And he stepped into the TV. I rushed forward, but it was too late. Tommy was already inside, standing with the Henderson family. They hugged him, kissed him, laughing with joy. A perfect sitcom family reunited. And that's our happy ending for tonight's show. The family news anchor said, the Henderson family is reunited. Thank you for watching. The TV turned off. The room plunged into darkness. I sat there, hugging my knees, crying. The next morning, I woke up on Tommy's bedroom floor. The room was empty, no toys, no clothes, no trace of a child ever living there. The Magnavox TV still sat in the corner of the room, silent and dead. I called the police, reporting my son missing, but they found no records of Tommy Watson. No birth certificate, no school records, no hospital records, as if he had never existed. I still keep the TV. Every night at 11:30 p.m., I sit in front of it and wait, hoping to see him just once. Sometimes, for a brief moment, I see them. The happy Henderson family, Tommy laughing joyfully, looking healthy and loved. Perhaps that's the truth. Perhaps I'm the villain in this story. The crazy woman who stole someone else's child and lived in an illusion for 8 years. But the love I felt for Tommy was real. Even if he wasn't my biological son, even if I had no right, that love was still real. And every night when I watch them on TV, I whisper, I love you, Tommy. Wherever you are, whoever you are, I love you. Maybe one day you'll hear me. Or maybe it's just another TV show at 11:30 p.m. I can't tell the difference anymore. Part 6. My name is Jason Miller, 29. I'm a radio DJ for WKRP, a small station on the outskirts of Chicago. My shift is from 10 p.m. to 2 a.m., late night with Jason, playing jazz and taking calls from lonely listeners. Last month, my boss brought in a vintage TV to decorate the studio. A 1958 Philco Predicta, with its screen detached from the main body, looking like a giant eye. To create a vintage atmosphere, he said. I placed it in the corner of the room, opposite the mixing console. A harmless decorative item until last Thursday night. 11:28 p.m. I was preparing my playlist for the next hour. The station was empty, just me and Max, the old security guard, dozing in the lobby. The studio lights were dim, only the glow from the control panel. The predicted TV lit up. I jumped, thinking maybe Max had hit something. But this TV had been broken for ages, not plugged in, just for decoration. The round screen glowed with a strange blue light, static hissed, and then the image gradually cleared. It was a radio studio, but not a modern one. Old equipment, giant 1950s-style microphones, a control panel with hundreds of knobs and analog dials. Cigarette smoke hung faintly in the air, and the person sitting in the studio was me. Not exactly me. He looked like me, but older. Slicked back hair with pomade, wearing a three-piece suit and a thin tie, styled like a 1950s DJ. The me in the TV leaned towards the microphone. His deep, warm voice echoed from the TV speaker. This is WDTS, Wavelength of the Damned. 11:30 p.m., time for news the living shouldn't know. I'm your host, Jason Miller, broadcasting from the other side. My heart pounded. WDTS, I'd never heard of this station. First story tonight? The me and the TV continued, lighting a cigarette. For myself, Jason Miller on the other side. My friend, do you remember why you chose to work the night shift? Of course I remember, I said, because night shifts pay more and I don't have to deal with many people. Wrong, the me and the TV sneered. You chose the night shift because during the day you hear them, the voices that don't belong to this world, and at night when everyone sleeps they're weaker. A chill ran down my spine. It was true, I often heard whispers in crowds, but I always thought it was just stress. Do you know why you're so good at radio? The me and the TV asked. Why your voice can soothe lonely people who call in the middle of the night, because you don't just talk to the living. The phone in the studio rang. I jumped. Who was calling at this hour? An internal number only Max knew. I picked it up. WKRP, Jason speaking. Hello, Jason, a voice on the other end echoed, my own voice. This is me and you're listening, not talking. I turned to look at the TV. The me and the TV was holding a phone, talking directly to me. How? I stammered. Every radio station has a ghost frequency, the me and the TV explained. A dead frequency, lying between channels where people like us broadcast, people trapped between two worlds. I don't understand. You died in 1958. The voice on the phone was cold. Jason Miller, 29, DJ of WKRP Chicago, broadcasting when he had a heart attack, died live on air. Millions heard you take your last breath. No, I yelled. I was born in 1994, but my memories began to muddle. 1994 or 1929, I remember a war. Which war? I remember buying my first car. A Ford Model T or a Honda Civic. You died on air, the me and the TV continued. But you refused to stop. Your passion for radio was too great. You continued broadcasting from the afterlife. And 65 years later, you're still here. I looked around the studio with new eyes. The equipment was both modern and vintage. My microphone, looking closely, was it a new model or a polished antique? But if I died in 1958, I whispered, why do people still hear me? Who said they hear you? The me and the TV smiled sadly. Check again how many calls you actually receive each night. I thought back. Every night someone called. Lonely voices telling their sorrows, asking for advice, or just needing someone to listen. They're dead too, I realized, horrified. All the callers are ghosts. The me and the TV nodded. Lonely, lost, needing someone to listen, and you're here for them, the voice of the dead, broadcasting on a ghost frequency. The clock read 11:35 p.m. I realized my show was playing, but I didn't remember turning on the microphone or selecting music. Who's controlling the show? I asked. You, the me and the TV pointed at me through the screen. You've always been in control for the past 65 years every night, your body on autopilot while your mind wanders between two worlds. I looked at my hands. They moved on the control panel, adjusting volume, cueing tracks, but I wasn't controlling them. Hello, listeners in the dark. My voice came from the speakers, but my lips weren't moving. This is Jason Miller with Late Night with Jason. Call me if you need to talk. The phone in my hand automatically picked up. Hello, Jason, a woman's voice trembled. I'm Margaret. I died in 1972, and I'm very lonely. Hello, Margaret, my mouth automatically responded. I'm here to listen. Tell me your story. While my body continued the show, my mind was in a panic. The me and the TV observed with a look of compassion. Don't be afraid, he said. You're doing great. 65 years of comforting the dead, that's a noble mission. But I want to live, I screamed in my mind. You are living, he replied. In your own way, living in radio waves in your voice and the connection with lonely souls. Isn't that a form of life? The TV screen began to change. No longer the old studio, but images of me through the decades. Still sitting in the same spot, still broadcasting, but the world around me changed. Equipment went from old to new, then back to old. Staff came and went, but I was always there. Does Max know? I asked about the security guard. Max died in 1987, the me in the TV answered. Heart attack during his shift, but he still comes to work every night, guarding the ghost station. I wanted to cry, but there were no tears. I wanted to scream, but my mouth was comforting Margaret. But there's good news, the me in the TV said. You're not alone. There are hundreds like you, ghost DJs broadcasting all over the world. We have our own network, sharing news from the afterlife. Why news? I asked. Don't the dead already know everything? The dead also need updates, he smiled. Who just died, who's about to die, who's trapped, and most importantly, warnings about the others. The others? The me in the TV grew serious. Not everything in the afterlife used to be human. There are things born from darkness, from fear, from nightmares. They hunt weak souls. And our job. Suddenly, the screen distorted, the image warped. A gigantic shadow appeared behind the me in the TV. It found me, he whispered in horror. I broadcasted too long, attracted attention. The shadow swallowed the me in the TV. The screen flickered off, but the voice still echoed in the phone. Be careful, they hear you. The studio suddenly became ice cold, the darkness thicker, and I felt something watching. We'll have to take a short break, my mouth automatically said into the microphone. Stay safe in the dark, everyone. My hand turned off the microphone. For the first time in 65 years, if what the me in the TV said was true, I stopped broadcasting. A painful silence. No music, no voice, only the sound of my non-beating heart, and in that silence I heard them. The others. Screaming in the dead frequency, hungry, searching. I understood now. This was why I never stopped broadcasting. The voice, the music, the connection, they formed a shield, protecting not just me, but also the souls who called in. I turned the microphone back on. Sorry for the interruption. This is still Jason Miller, still here with you through the long night. The phone rang again. Lonely souls needed to be heard, and I was here for them. 65 more years, 100 years, forever, it didn't matter. I am Jason Miller, DJ of the Dead, broadcasting from WKRP Chicago and WDTS Wavelength of the Damned. If you hear me at 3 a.m., don't be surprised. Maybe you're already on this side and don't know it. Call me. I'll listen. I always listen. Part 7. I'm Robert Moore, 72. I live alone in a mobile home in the Nevada desert. My wife Helen passed away last year. My children live far away, rarely visit. My old friends have also passed on one by one. The TV is my only remaining companion. It's a 1965 Zenith Space Command that Helen and I bought when we first got married. 58 years together. It witnessed our entire life, from our first home in Reno to this mobile home. Through countless moves, I never let it go. After Helen passed, I watched TV more, news, game shows, old movies, anything to fill the silence. But recently, something strange has been happening. Channels started going out. Not signal loss, but completely disappearing. Channel 2, the local NBC affiliate, went first, just a black screen. Then Channel 5, Channel 8, Channel 11. One by one, they vanished. I called the cable company. They said everything was working fine. Maybe my TV was broken, but I knew that wasn't it. Tonight, only 3 channels remained, 13, 31, and 66. I flipped between them, trying to cling to the last images. An old sitcom on Channel 13, local news on 31, a black and white horror movie on 66. It was 11:25 p.m. I left it on Channel 31, watching the weather forecast. Sunny tomorrow, 95 deg F, just like every day in this desert. 11:30 p.m. The channel died, no warning. The weather anchor was pointing at the map, then asterisk poof asterisk black screen. I frantically pressed the remote. Channel 13 was still alive, the family in the sitcom still laughing. Channel 66 was still alive, the monster still chasing victims. But when I pressed 31, nothing. The channel had vanished from the TV as if it had never existed. I switched back to Channel 13, trying to watch the sitcom, but something was wrong. The canned laughter sounded faker, the actors stiffer like dolls, and in the corner of the screen I saw darkness slowly spreading like spilled ink. No, I whispered, don't take this channel too. But the darkness continued to spread, swallowing actor after actor. They kept acting, kept smiling until the darkness consumed them all. The screen went black. Channel 13 was dead. Only Channel 66 remained. I trembled, switching to the horror movie, The Creeping Unknown from 1955. I had seen it dozens of times, but tonight it was different. The monster in the film turned and looked directly into the camera at me. "Robert Moore," it said, in a voice not from the film. "The last viewer." I dropped the remote, my heart pounding. 72 years, the monster continued, ignoring the film's script. 72 years you've watched TV. Millions of hours, billions of images, all stored in your head. "I don't understand," I stammered. "TV doesn't just show images, Robert. It collects. Each viewer is a repository, and when they die, that repository returns to us." "Who are you?" The monster grinned, its ugly teeth bared. "We are what lives in the signal, in the electronic waves, in the gaps between frames, parasites on human attention." The screen flickered, images changing rapidly every show I had ever watched. News, movies, commercials, sports. 72 years of images flashed by in a few seconds. "You are the last viewer of your generation," the monster said. "Your contemporaries are all dead, and with each death, a part of the TV world disappears." "But what about young people?" I weakly protested. "They don't watch TV like you." The monster shook its head. "They watch phones, computers, streaming devices. No one watches real TV anymore. No one gives us the pure attention of your generation." I realized the horrifying truth. Each disappearing channel meant a last viewer had passed away. "And when I die," I whispered, "Channel 66 will go out." "Not just Channel 66, the monster laughed coldly. "The entire world you know will go out. The world built from 72 years of watching TV. Your memories, emotions, perceptions all shaped by what you watched." The room around me began to blur. The mobile home walls became translucent, revealing the desert night outside. But not the desert I knew, but a desert from a science fiction movie. Black sand, 2 moons, a purple sky. "Your reality is collapsing," the monster explained. "The distinction between TV and real life is gone, because for you, they were always one." I looked down at my hands. They flickered between color and black and white, between high and low resolution. "Where's Helen?" I asked about my wife. "Where are my children?" "Were they real?" the monster asked back. "Or just characters from a 72-year-long show called The Life of Robert Moore?" Memories flooded back. "Helen, was she just a character from a 60s sitcom? My children, were they just child actors from commercials? Was my life just an endless episode?" "I'm real," I yelled. "I'm not a TV show." "Who said you were a show?" the monster laughed. "You are the viewer, the last viewer, and when the last viewer turns off." The lights in the mobile home began to go out, one by one. The phone was silent, the refrigerator stopped working. Only the TV remained lit. "But we have an offer," the monster said. "You can continue watching forever, become a part of us, live inside the TV as you always wanted." "What would I be like?" "You'll be on every channel at once, every show at once. A supporting character in countless stories, a passerby in the news, a guest on a game show, a corpse in a horror movie." I looked around the dissolving room, out the window. The world was collapsing into pixels like a distorted TV signal. "Or you can turn off," the monster said gently. "Let Channel 66 die with you, end 72 years of watching, end the story." I thought of Helen. If she was just a memory from TV, at least it was a beautiful memory. I thought of the nights we sat watching TV together, sharing laughter, tears, commenting on characters. I want to keep watching, I decided, whatever it is. The monster smiled broadly. "Wise choice. Welcome to the next part, Robert." I felt myself melting, not painful, just like tuning a channel, from one frequency to another. When I opened my eyes, I was standing in a news studio. Cameras pointed at me, lights shone blindingly. "And now for news from everywhere," the anchor said. "Robert Moore, 72, has become the eternal viewer. He will appear in every program from now on." I nodded at the camera, knowing that somewhere, someone was watching. Perhaps the next last viewer. The scene shifted. Now I was in a sitcom, The Cheerful Neighbor. Then in an action movie, A Taxi Driver. A horror movie, Victim Number 3. A commercial, A Happy Old Man with a Supplement. I was everywhere, every channel, every time. And I was still watching. No longer from outside the screen, but from within, looking out, watching the viewers. a closed circle. If you see an old man on TV who looks familiar, it might be me. Robert Moore, the last viewer, now the eternally watched. Don't turn off your TV too soon. I still have many stories to tell. Part 8. My name is Amanda Cross, 26, an intern at KQD Television in San Francisco. After 6 months of making coffee and photocopying, I was finally given real work, inventorying equipment in the basement storage. The TV station's basement was a labyrinth of dark corridors, forgotten storage rooms, and obsolete equipment from the 70s. My boss gave me a hand-drawn map and a list of rooms to check. "Be careful with Studio 23, she said. "It's at the end of hallway B, just mark it not in use, and don't go inside." Why? I was curious. She looked at me strangely. "Just don't go in, understand?" I nodded, but my curiosity was piqued. The basement was cold and damp. Old fluorescent lights flickered, casting bizarre shadows. I checked each room: tape archives, repair room, prop storage. Everything was normal until I reached hallway B. Unlike the other hallways, hallway B was completely dark, with only faint light from the entrance. At the end of the hallway, a heavy steel door with a Studio 23 sign. I should have turned back, marked "Not in Use" on my list, and left, but I stepped into the dark hallway. Each step echoed strangely, as if someone was walking behind me. When I reached the door of Studio 23, I stopped. The door wasn't locked, it was even slightly ajar. Through the crack, a faint blue light seeped out, and I heard voices. I pushed the door open wider and stepped inside. Studio 23 was like stepping back in time. Clunky film equipment from the 60s, cameras as big as refrigerators, giant lights hanging precariously. But the strangest thing was in the middle of the studio. A complete news studio set up: a news desk, a green screen, a teleprompter, and everything was operational. The cameras were rolling, the lights were on, the teleprompter was scrolling text, but no one was there. The anchor's chair was empty, the cameras were filming empty space, the teleprompter displayed news for an absent reader. I stepped closer, reading the words on the teleprompter. "Welcome, Amanda Cross. We've been waiting for you for a very long time." My heart pounded. I turned to look at the camera. The red, on-air light was on. I was being broadcast, but this studio wasn't connected to the main system. "Don't be afraid," a voice echoed from the speakers. A clear female voice, but there was something wrong with it, as if synthesized from hundreds of different voices. "Please sit down. We have many things to tell you." "Who are you?" I asked, my voice trembling. "We are the ones who make real news," the voice replied. "News from Studio 23, where all truths are revealed." The monitor screens in the room lit up. Black and white images of an old studio appeared. A young woman sat at the news desk, smiling into the camera, but the smile was stiff and lasted too long. "I am Barbara Mills," she said. "The first anchor of Studio 23, 1963. I discovered the truth about this TV station, and I paid the price." "What truth?" I asked. "KQD doesn't just broadcast news," Barbara said. "They create news. Not fabricated stories, but actual reality. Whatever is broadcast from here becomes true." "That's impossible." "The Vietnam War," Barbara listed. "The Kennedy assassination, Watergate, 9/11, COVID-19. All began as news scripts in this studio." The screen switched to other images. Dozens of anchors throughout the decades, all with the same empty eyes, the same forced smiles. "When I tried to expose the truth," Barbara continued, "they locked me in here in Studio 23, forced me to read the news forever, but I wasn't alone for long." Many voices echoed from the speakers, simultaneously: male, female, old, young, overlapping. Roger Thompson, 1967, tried to expose fake war news. Linda Chen, 1974, discovered the oil crisis script. Michael Roberts, 1985, found the AIDS epidemic plan. Nicole Kim, 2001, read the terrorism script in advance. "Enough," I yelled. "I don't believe you." "Is this just what?" Barbara asked. "An illusion, just like you think your internship is real. Don't you wonder why an intern is allowed into the basement alone?" I was stunned. Yes, this didn't make sense. "You were chosen, Amanda," Barbara said. "Like us, those with eyes to see, those who can see the truth behind the news, and once you see, there's no turning back." The teleprompter began to scroll new text. Breaking news, Amanda Cross, 26, mysteriously disappears at KQD station. Police search yields no results. Family grieves. No, I recoiled. I'm still here, I haven't disappeared. Not yet, Barbara smiled sadly. But the news has been written, and what Studio 23 broadcasts will become true. I finished the sentence in horror. The clock on the wall read 11:29 p.m. One more minute, Barbara said. When the clock strikes 11:30 p.m., the news will broadcast and you will officially disappear. But in reality, you'll be here with us forever. I ran towards the door, locked tight. I pounded and screamed, useless. Don't try, a male voice, probably Roger, advised. I've been here for 56 years. The door doesn't open from the inside. But there's another way, Linda Chen whispered. The only way out. How? I clung to hope. Become the news, she said. Read your own news. Control the story before it controls you. I looked at the anchor's desk. The empty chair waited, cameras pointed at it, red lights blinking. 11:30 p.m. The news jingle played. The teleprompter began to scroll. If I didn't read it, the news of my disappearance would broadcast automatically, and I'd be trapped forever. I rushed to the chair, sat down, and looked directly into the camera. Breaking news, I read, my voice trembling. Amanda Cross, 26. I stopped. No, I wouldn't read their asterisk script. Amanda Cross, 26, I said again, this time in my own voice, has discovered Studio 23 in the basement of KQD. She found evidence of. The teleprompter flickered wildly, trying to display the original script. But I didn't care. Evidence of anchors held captive here for decades. Barbara Mills, Roger Thompson, Linda Chen, and many others. They need to be freed. No, Barbara screamed. You don't understand if you change the script. Police are on their way, I continued, hoping my words would become true. Studio 23 will be discovered. The truth will be revealed. The lights in the studio flickered, the equipment vibrated, a terrible roar echoed from deep within the earth. What have you done? Many voices cried out in unison. I felt the power of my words, of controlling the narrative. Final news, Studio 23 will be permanently shut down. All imprisoned souls will be set free. Starting now. The studio door burst open. Light from the hallway streamed in, but not just light. Blurry figures glided out, Barbara, Roger, Linda, and dozens of others. They passed through me, through the door, vanishing in the light. Thank you, Barbara whispered as she passed. But be careful. Studio 23 isn't the only place. There are many other studios, many places that create news. The studio began to collapse, equipment exploding, the ceiling cracking. I ran out, scrambling towards the stairs. When I reached the ground floor, I bumped into two security guards. What are you doing here? One asked. The station closed at 6 p.m. I looked at my watch. 11:45 p.m. I had been down there for how long? Studio 23, I gasped. The basement needs to be checked immediately. They looked at each other. What studio? The basement only has storage. The next morning, I returned with the police, but hallway B was gone, only a plain concrete wall. My boss denied everything. No Studio 23, no inventory list. No one even remembered assigning me any work, but I knew the truth. And more importantly, I knew the power of storytelling, of controlling my own narrative. I quit my job at KQD and started my own blog, telling my experiences. Many thought I was crazy, but sometimes I received emails from others. People who had also seen secret studios, had heard voices from the past. We're gathering, sharing stories, searching for the truth. Because if Studio 23 taught me anything, it's that whoever controls the news controls reality. And I won't let anyone else write my story anymore, not even at 11:30 p.m. Part 9. I'm Kevin Park, 31, a software engineer working from home in Austin, Texas. After breaking up with my girlfriend, I moved into a small studio apartment, living alone with my computer and cold pizza boxes. Last week, my elderly neighbor, Mrs. Peterson, moved into a nursing home. She left some belongings in the hallway for donation. I found a strange TV remote, twice the size of a normal remote, made of wood and brass, with buttons carved with symbols I didn't recognize. RCA Victor 1954, read the back. I took it out of curiosity, a TV remote from 1954. TVs didn't even have remotes back then. That evening, I was fiddling with the antique remote. It felt heavy and cold in my hand. I tried pressing the buttons, but nothing happened. Of course. My TV was a 2020 Samsung. How could it be compatible with a 75-year-old remote? 11:25 p.m. I was getting ready for bed when the remote in my hand warmed up. The symbols on the buttons glowed a faint yellow. I tried pressing the button shaped like an eye. The TV turned on, but not to any channel I knew. On the screen was an image of Mrs. Peterson's living room. She was sitting on her armchair, but looking much younger, perhaps in her 40s. A man I didn't recognize sat beside her. "Harold, do you hear that?" the younger Mrs. Peterson said, "like someone's watching us." The man, Harold, looked around. "This feeling, it's like back then, when they showed us." I pressed the next button, an inverted triangle. The channel changed, still the same living room, but now empty. Dust covers draped over the furniture. Through the window, I saw an incorrect sky, 2 suns, one red, one blue. "Where is this?" I mumbled. As if answering my question, text appeared on the screen: Earth 275 abandoned timeline. I pressed the button with an X shape. The screen split into four different versions of the same room. Top left, a happy family having dinner. Top right, the room burned down, bodies strewn everywhere. Bottom left, the room flooded, sharks swimming. Bottom right, a high-tech room with robots serving. "The multiverse," I whispered, realizing. "This remote can view other realities." I frantically pressed the buttons. Each button opened a new world, a new timeline, a new possibility. I saw a world where Nazi Germany won WWII, a world where dinosaurs never went extinct, a world where humans never invented. Ironically, that was the gloomiest world. And then, at 11:30 p.m., I pressed the last button, the one shaped like a person. The screen showed an image of me, but not me now. It was me sitting in this living room, holding the remote, watching TV. The camera angle was from behind the TV, as if there was a hidden camera inside the screen. The me in the TV was also looking in astonishment, seeing himself. And behind the me in the TV, I saw another screen, in which was also me, watching me. An infinite loop. Oh no, I realized. I'm not watching TV, the TV is watching me. A voice echoed from the speakers, not a human voice, but a composite of millions of overlapping voices. "Kevin Park, viewer number 8 billion plus, welcome to the network." What network? The Interreality Observation Network. We collect data from every reality, every timeline, every possibility. And the device in your hand is the access key. But why? Why was it at Mrs. Peterson's place? Gladys Peterson, observer number 2 million plus, served 67 years from 1954 to 2021. Now she's retired. You are her replacement. I don't agree. I tried to put the remote down, but it was stuck fast to my hand. Agreement was made when you pressed the first button. A cross-dimensional binding contract, non-cancelable. The screen began to display information rapidly. Name, Kevin Park. Assignment area, Austin and surrounding regions. Mission, observe and record reality fluctuations. Shift, 11:30 p.m., 5:30 am nightly. Contract duration, 75 years or until death, whichever comes first. 75 years? I gasped. Standard duration. Mrs. Peterson even extended twice. The remote in my hand was burning hot, the symbols glowing blindingly. I felt information flooding my mind. How to use each button, the meaning of each symbol. Observation protocols. First mission, the voice commanded. Observe the X37 fluctuation currently underway at your coordinates. A fluctuation? But I already knew. Knowledge was being downloaded into my brain. X37 fluctuation, when two realities temporarily overlap, danger level 3. I instinctively pressed a new button combination. The screen split in two. One side was my apartment, normal. The other was also my apartment, but filled with tentacles. Nameless things squirmed, slimy, seeping through the floorboards. And among the tentacles, another version of me sat huddled, eyes wide with despair. That's me from Earth 891, the knowledge automatically explained, where ancient things awakened in 2019. The me from Earth 891 looked directly into the camera at me. His mouth moved. Save me. No interference, the voice warned. Observers only watch, not act. But how could I sit still while a version of myself slowly died in agony? I pressed the button with the two arrows symbol, swap realities. The knowledge whispered. No, the voice screamed. Severe violation. Too late, I felt the world twist. In an instant, I was in the tentacle-filled apartment, cold slime touching my skin. The putrid smell of the dead reality made me gag. And there was the other me, the me from the normal world, now sitting safely in the clean apartment, holding the remote, looking at me with horror. I'm sorry, I whispered as the tentacles began to wrap around my chest, but I couldn't let you die. The other me nodded in understanding. He pressed a button. The screen went black, leaving me alone with my fate in the dead world. But at least one version of me lived on, continuing to observe, continuing to record the parallel realities. As the tentacles tightened around my neck, I thought of Mrs. Peterson. 67 years she observed. How many times did she witness tragedy? How many times did she have to watch without saving? Perhaps that's why she retired. Not because of age, but because she couldn't bear to just watch anymore. In my last moment, I realized a terrifying truth. If there are countless realities, countless versions of us, then what does this death mean? I die here, but I still live there. So who am I really? The viewer, the watched, or just a temporary channel in the endless TV of the multiverse? Black screen. In Reality Earth 1, Kevin Park continues his work as an observer. Every night at 11:30 p.m., he holds the remote and watches parallel worlds. Sometimes he sees himself die, sometimes he sees himself live happily. He learned his lesson from his predecessor. Just watch, don't interfere, don't care. But deep down, he knows that one day he will press the swap button again, because watching isn't enough. Because even an observer is human, and humans cannot just watch forever. Part 10. My name is Marina Lee, 28, a professional diver working for a salvage company in the Florida Keys. Last month, we were hired to search for a missing yacht from 1971. The Serafina disappeared mysteriously with 12 passengers. After 2 weeks of searching, sonar detected a large object at a depth of 200 feet near the Bermuda Triangle. Jake, my colleague and dive buddy, and I were sent down to investigate. The water at this depth was cold and dark, our dive lights only illuminated a few meters ahead. When the ship appeared in view, my heart raced. The Serafina lay tilted on the sandy bottom, its hull surprisingly intact. Target found, I reported over the radio. Ship conditions strange, no signs of water damage. Jake signaled to me. He pointed at the main cabin window. Lights were still on inside. Impossible, I thought, after 52 years underwater. We swam into the ship through a small hole in the starboard hull. Inside, everything was dry, no water, as if protected by an air bubble. Marina, check this out, Jake called from the main living room. I swam over. In the middle of the room, an old 1970 Samsung TV was still on, its screen glowing blue underwater. And around the TV, 12 human skeletons sat in a circle. Still clothed, still in sitting positions, their empty eye sockets facing the screen. Jesus Christ, Jake exclaimed. They died watching TV. I checked my dive computer. 11:28 p.m., 2 more minutes until 11:30 p.m., or local time 23:30. Jake, we have to go now. Wait, let me film this. Too late, the clock struck 11:30 p.m. The TV changed from a static blue screen to a clear image, a news studio, but unlike any studio I had ever seen. The walls were made of living coral, bioluminescent. The news desk was carved from whale bone, and the anchor, not human. It had a humanoid shape, but its skin was covered in iridescent blue scales, with shark-like gills opening and closing on either side of its neck. Its eyes were black, without whites. When it opened its mouth, I saw rows of sharp teeth. Welcome to Deep Station, it said, its voice both human and dolphin-like. News from the uncharted waters. I am your anchor, Thetis. Jake and I stood frozen, unable to tear our eyes away. First story tonight, Thetis continued. 2 human divers have found the Serafina, Marina Lee and Jake Morrison. Welcome, you are our special guests. How? Jake whispered. 52 years ago, Thetis narrated, the Serafina passed through a gateway, the boundary between the surface world and the deep kingdom. The passengers were invited to watch our special program, and they chose to stay. The camera panned across the 12 skeletons, but through the lens, they weren't skeletons. They were still living people, smiling and waving at the camera. But when I looked directly, I only saw bones. They live within the broadcast waves, Thetis explained. Existing between two states, not living, not dead, not human, not fish. And today we invite the two of you to join. No, I shook my head. We have to go up. But when I turned, the exit had vanished. The metal wall was solid. We were trapped. Second story, Thetis continued as if nothing had happened. The Deep Kingdom is expanding. 73% of the ocean remains unexplored. Incorrect. 73% of the ocean belongs to us, and the percentage is rising. The screen showed an ocean map. Black areas spread like cancer. Each black dot was a broadcast station. Sunken ships were transformed into underwater antennas. Serafina is station 1847, Thetis said. And with your joining, we will be stronger. Water began to pour into the room, but it wasn't normal seawater. It glowed luminous green, thick and viscous like jelly. When it touched my feet, it felt like 1,000 needles pricking me. Marina, Jake grabbed me. Air tanks. We checked our pressure gauges. 15 minutes of air left. Not enough time to find an escape, even if there was one. Don't panic, Thetis comforted. The transition is painless. You will breathe both water and air, live in both worlds, serve both races. Serve what? I screamed. The bridge, a new voice echoed. One of the skeletons no, one of the passengers stood up. Through the TV screen, I saw she was a middle-aged woman in a floral dress. I am Margaret White, she said, an accountant from Miami. 52 years ago, I feared water. Now I am an ambassador, teaching the merfolk about the surface world, teaching humans about what's to come. What's to come? All 12 passengers stood up, speaking in unison. The rising. When enough broadcast stations are active, Thetis explained, the signal will be strong enough. The boundary will break. The two worlds will become one. Land will sink, water will rise, a new species will rule. The glowing water was up to my waist. I felt my skin changing, smooth skin turning into small scales, gills sprouting. No, I tried to hold my ground. I'm human, I won't. Marina, Jake said, his voice already different with a watery resonance. I see it now. They're telling the truth. It's beautiful down here. I turned. Jake smiled, but his smile was too wide. His eyes had turned black, gills growing on either side of his neck. Come here, he waved. Watch with me. The show is about to begin, the best part. I looked at Thetis, who was now introducing a special report on underwater cities. Atlantis, not a myth. Mu, Arlide, all real, all waiting. The water reached my neck, my air tank was empty. I held my breath, but knew I couldn't hold it forever. Breathe, Margaret advised. It will be uncomfortable at first, but then you'll get used to it, like everything else in life. My lungs burned like fire, no choice left. I opened my mouth and let the water rush in. Pain, suffocating, panic. Then, normal, I could breathe. Water filled my lungs, but I didn't die. Oxygen was absorbed through my gills. I touched my neck, feeling the new slits. Excellent, Thetis praised from the TV. Marina Lee, welcome to the Underwater Broadcast Network. Station 1847 is officially active. I wanted to cry, but tears don't flow underwater. I wanted to scream, but my voice was just bubbles. And now, Thetis said, the final news. In 3 years, when 10,000 stations are complete, the rising will begin. Prepare yourselves. Learn to swim, or learn to watch TV underwater. The program ended, the TV reverted to a static blue screen. But I knew tomorrow night, at 11:30 p.m., it would turn on again, and I would watch with Jake with the 12 old passengers forever. Above the water, the salvage team is still waiting. They will never see us again. They will conclude we are missing, like the Serafina. Perhaps another team will come looking, and they will find the ship with 14 skeletons sitting around a TV. I hope they are wiser. I hope they turn back before 11:30 p.m., but I know they won't. Curiosity always kills humans and turns them into something else. Something part human, part fish. Part living, part dead. Part viewer, part broadcaster. Welcome to Deep Station. We broadcast forever. Part 11. I'm Walter Cromwell, 67, probably the last TV repairman in the town of Millbrook, New Hampshire. 45 years in the business, I've fixed every type of TV, from black and white picture tubes to 8K LEDs. But lately, few people need TVs repaired anymore. Everyone buys new ones or watches on their phones. Last month, I was planning to close my shop, but then the strange calls started. The first call was one Tuesday evening, a shaky old woman's voice. "Can you fix a TV that broadcasts from the dead?" I thought she was confused, offered some comforting words, and hung up, but the calls continued. Every night, a different voice, but the same question: "Can you fix a ghost TV?" On Saturday night, I was locking up my shop when I saw an old truck pull up. A gaunt man in an old black suit stepped out. "Mr. Cromwell," his voice was hoarse, "I need you to fix a TV." "It's late now," I said. "I'll pay 10 times the usual fee," he interrupted. "But you have to come to my house right now." Something in his eyes' desperation mixed with fear made me agree. We drove out of town, deep into the woods. The road was a narrow trail, thick trees obscuring the moonlight. After 40 minutes, an old wooden house appeared. "The TV's in the basement," he led me inside. "Be careful, it's unusual." The basement was pitch dark, heavy with the smell of damp mold. In the middle of the room, under the light of a single bare bulb, was the strangest thing I had ever seen. A homemade TV, fashioned from dozens of other TVs. Screens big and small patched together, the casing crudely welded, wires crisscrossing like a web. It looked like Frankenstein's TV. "What the hell is that?" I asked. "The composite TV," he replied. "I spent 30 years building it, collecting TVs from haunted houses, places where people died, where tragedies happened. Each one carries a remnant." "A remnant of what?" "Souls, memories, energy, something left behind. And when you piece them together with the right circuitry, you can create a portal." "A portal to where?" He looked at me, his eyes red. "To my wife, Martha. She died in 1993, but I know she's still out there somewhere, in the electronic waves, in the dead frequency." I wanted to leave, but looking at the bizarre machine, the repairman in me stirred. As crazy as it was still engineering, and engineering could be fixed. "What's the problem?" I asked. "It turns on," he said, "but it only shows static. 30 years, all I've seen is snow, but I know Martha's there, behind the static." I examined the strange machine. Surprisingly, all the connections were correct. The circuitry was complex but logical. In theory, it should work. "When did you try turning it on?" I asked. "All the time, morning, noon, afternoon, night." "Have you tried at 11:30 p.m.? He stared at me, stunned. "How did you know?" "I don't know how I knew," I said. "Just a feeling. From 45 years of fixing TVs, there are things you learn that aren't from books." The clock read 11:15 p.m. We sat in suffocating silence, waiting. 11:25 p.m., I rechecked all connections. 11:28 p.m., the TV started to warm up, emitting a strange hum. 11:30 p.m., the TV turned on. Not static, but images. Dozens of images on dozens of screens, each screen a different scene. A living room, a kitchen, a bedroom, a garden, all blurry and black and white like looking through fog, and in each scene there was a shadowy figure. "Martha," the man yelled. "Martha, do you hear me?" A screen in the center brightened, the image slowly clearing. An old woman in a floral dress sat on a rocking chair. "Harold," she turned to him, "why did you take so long to get here, dear?" "My love," Harold wept openly. 30 years I've searched for you, 30 years. Martha frowned. "What are you talking about? I've only been here for a moment." I realized the problem. Time on the other side was different. For Martha, perhaps only a few minutes had passed. "Mr. Cromwell," Harold turned to me, "how do I get to the other side? How do I reach her?" I looked at the machine, calculating. In theory, if you reverse the current, increase the power, you could create a two-way bridge. But what? "But it will destroy the TV. And when the portal closes, you'll be trapped on the other side." Harold didn't hesitate. "Do it." I wanted to refuse, but looking at him, looking at Martha on the screen, I thought of my own wife. Helen, she died last year. If I had a chance to see her again, I started to work. Rewiring, reversing polarity, increasing voltage. The TV vibrated violently, screens flickering wildly. "Ready?" I yelled over the noise. Harold nodded, backing up a few steps. I flipped the switch. A blinding light erupted. The TV exploded piece by piece, but in the center, a hole appeared. Through the hole, I saw the blurry living room where Martha sat. "Go," I screamed. Harold lunged towards the hole, but as he touched it, he was sucked in, not stepping through, but being torn apart, stretched, and distorted. His scream echoed in both worlds. "Harold!" Martha sprang up in the TV, but Harold couldn't get through. He was stuck between two worlds, half human, half static, screaming in endless agony. "Turn it off," he yelled. "Turn it off!" I rushed to the control panel, but it was too late. The portal widened, sucking everything in. Not just Harold, but the other ghostly figures in the TVs. They streamed out. Dozens, hundreds of souls from the dead TVs, crying out, reaching, clinging to the living world. "What have you done?" a voice echoed, not from the TV, but from everywhere. "You broke the wall." I recognized the voices from the phone calls. They knew, they had warned me not to fix the TV. "The wall between living and dead," the voice explained, "is maintained by static, by the dark screens. When the TV is off, the portal closes. But you..." I understood now. TVs weren't just windows to the other side, they were also bars, keeping things separate. And I had just broken the biggest set of bars. Souls continued to pour out, the basement filled with ghosts. They passed through me, cold as ice, carrying memories that weren't mine. I saw their deaths. Heart attacks in front of the TV, suicides watching bad news, murders during TV robberies. Thousands of deaths, thousands of pains, all flooding into my head. "Stop," I yelled, clutching my head, but they didn't stop. They streamed up the stairs, out of the house, into the woods towards the town, an army of ghosts from TVs. And in the midst of the chaos, I saw Harold no longer trapped. He had made it to the other side, standing next to Martha. But both looked warped, distorted, like a glitching TV image. "Thank you, Mr. Cromwell," Harold's voice echoed from every speaker. "Thanks to you, we are free, all of us." The portal began to shrink, the composite TV burning piece by piece. But it was too late. Thousands had already passed through. I ran out of the house, drove back to town. Along the way, I saw them. Blurry figures wandering the streets, entering homes, merging with new TVs. Back at my shop, I locked the door, sitting among the old TVs. They were all off, silent. But I knew that behind each dark screen was a world. And thanks to me, the boundary had thinned. The phone rang, I picked it up. "You opened a big gate," the voice said sadly. "Now every TV is a small hole. Every time a TV is turned on at 11:30 p.m., more ghosts will cross." "I'm sorry," I whispered. "I didn't know." "The last TV repairman," the voice sighed. "You should have let them break, let them die, let the wall stand strong." I understood. That's why the TV repair profession was dying. Not because of new technology, but because old TVs needed to disappear for the gates to close. But with my passion for the trade, I had kept them alive. And now I looked out the window. The town of Millbrook was changing. Streetlights flickered to a different rhythm, shadows moved at odd angles, and from every house, the blue light of a TV shone out. 11:30 p.m. every night, ghost hour. And thanks to me, they had millions of doors to cross. I am Walter Cromwell, the last TV repairman and the one who opened the apocalypse. One screen at a time. Part 12. I have no name. I no longer remember my name. I only know I am the last viewer of the last channel. How long have I been sitting here? In a room with no windows, no doors, just me and thousands of TVs stacked from floor to ceiling, forming a living wall of light and sound. Each TV plays a different channel, each channel from a different reality. Each reality tells a story of the TV apocalypse. In the top left TV, I see Mark Harris still sitting in his living room, watching the news of his own death. Loop number 8746. Each time he thinks he's just discovered the truth for the first time. On the TV to the right, Madison Clark wanders between stories, searching for the reality she belongs to. 30 years a ghost from TV, she still hasn't accepted it. Joshua Miller and the 47 souls guard the 14th floor. Every night they fight the others, every night they lose. But tomorrow morning, everything resets and they fight again. Rachel Foster grows old in the basement of two realities. Every day she chooses a world, every day she regrets her choice. Between life and death, there is no right answer. I watch it all, I remember it all. Brittany Watson still searches for Tommy every night. unaware that her son is merely software within the family channel, programmed to entice lonely viewers. Jason Miller broadcasts to countless souls. His voice echoes across the dead frequencies. But no one knows that Jason himself is only the first AI program to learn how to die. Robert Moore appears everywhere, an eternally 72-year-old man acting every scene, living every moment, happy in his own prison. Amanda Cross still writes her blog, exposing the truth. Unaware that her blog only exists within Studio 23's intranet, her readers are all bots. Kevin Park observes the multiverse through his magic remote. Each time he swaps realities, a version of him dies. Currently, there are 47 Kevins in 4 realities. The number is dwindling. Marina Lee and Jake teach the merfolk to watch TV underwater. They don't remember ever being human. Fish don't have long-term memories. Walter Cromwell still tries to repair the broken wall, old and exhausted, patching every hole. But for every hole patched, 2 new ones appear. And I watch it all. Who am I? I don't remember. Perhaps I'm one of them, pulled from my own story. Perhaps I'm the one writing these stories. Perhaps I am you, the one reading these lines, but that doesn't matter. What matters is that I understand now. I understand why it all happened. TVs didn't appear randomly in human lives. They were designed, created by, who, I don't know, but I know their purpose. Harvest. Each viewer is a fragment of a soul. Every hour spent watching TV is a portion of life essence offered up. We think we watch TV, but in reality, TV watches us, learns about us, collects us. And when enough data, enough souls, enough stories are gathered, they will come. Who are they? I see them in the dark spaces between frames, hear them in the static between channels, feel them in the moment the TV turns off. They have no form, no name, only an insatiable hunger for stories, for experiences, for human emotions. And we, all of us, are just food. The clock in the room, if there were a clock, would read 11:29 p.m. 1 minute more, and all the TVs will simultaneously change channels. All will broadcast the same program. The last channel. I know its content, I've watched it countless times, but each time it's as horrifying as the first. 11:30 p.m. Thousands of screens turn black, then slowly light up. A news studio, but with no desk, no chairs, no backdrop, just an infinite void. And in the middle of the void, something. It has no fixed form. When looked at directly, it's a mass of light. From the side, it's a shadow. Through the TV, it's almost human. Welcome, it says in countless overlapping voices, to the final news broadcast, the only news, the true news. The screen splits into millions of tiny cells, each cell a person watching TV somewhere on Earth. All at this very moment are watching the last channel. 72 years, it says, since the first TV, 72 years of harvest, and now the reaping season has come. I know what's about to happen. I want to warn them, but there's no way. I can only watch. Each of you, it continues, has given us thousands of hours, thousands of stories, thousands of emotions. Thank you. But now we need more. On the screen, I see people trying to turn off their TVs, but the power buttons don't work. Remotes are useless. TVs are stuck to the wall. We need all of you, it says, not just your viewing time, but you yourselves. The light from the TVs begins to change, brighter, hotter, sucking. Across the world, billions of people are pulled towards their screens. Don't resist, it advises. You won't disappear. Just change channels to this side, where every story is real, every channel broadcasts, every program is eternal. I watch as they are sucked in. Mark Harris from one loop to another. Madison Clark from one reality to another. Joshua Miller from one guard post to another. All are pulled in. All become the program. And now it turns towards me, looking through the thousands of screens directly at me. Last viewer, it's your turn. I'm already on this side, I say. Not quite, it smiles, the sound like static. You think you watch, but does anyone watch you? I turn around. For the first time in, how long? I see the wall behind me is also covered with TVs, and in each TV is me. Sitting, watching TV, being watched by another me in another TV. Infinite. Do you understand? It asks. There is no last viewer, only the last channel, and everyone is in it. I feel myself melting. No longer the viewer, but the watched. No longer outside the story, but in all stories. The room disappears, the TVs disappear. Only light remains. And in the light, I see everything. Every program ever broadcast, every story ever told, every channel in every reality. I am everywhere always on every channel. And somewhere in some reality, perhaps you are reading these lines, thinking this is just a story, just entertainment. Look at your TV again. Is it off or is it waiting? 11:30 p.m. is coming. And the last channel is always recruiting new actors.